Let's talk more about the AmeriCorps service term requirements. Before we dive into specifics here, I want to make sure that we are all grounded in the why there are specific requirements to serve with AmeriCorps. So in order to ensure equity, the safety of our communities we serve, and that programs and participants are being good stewards of their funding, there are a number of requirements you must meet throughout your service term in order to receive the benefits we just reviewed. My tax dollars, your tax dollars, our tax dollars provide these benefits, and because of that, the Corporation for National and Community Service has a significant responsibility to ensure the funds are being used appropriately, legally, and fairly. AmeriCorps requirements are federal law, which means that they are incredibly important as well as inflexible. These requirements are also outlined in the AmeriCorps Member Service Agreement that you must sign before your term begins. If you haven't signed it already, it's actually in your inbox. Also, just a note, non-compliance could mean ineligibility to receive your education award as well as the other AmeriCorps benefits. So, what are some of the service term requirements? For one, you must be a citizen, national, or legal permanent resident. In order to enroll in AmeriCorps, you must meet citizenship requirements. All AmeriCorps members must have citizenship verification documents on file before they can enroll for service. Upon enrollment, AmeriCorps automatically checks your citizenship status and verifies your Social Security number, which is required for the Ed Award payment. You may need to provide additional documentation at the request of AmeriCorps. While we have already collected these documents from you, please note that you may still be required to provide additional documentation upon AmeriCorps enrollment, should AmeriCorps request it. Another thing that you have to do is clear all criminal history checks. You also must clear these checks, including the state and the federal one. And by now, you've already signed the background check authorization form and will be well underway of completing this requirement. So there are AmeriCorps service term limits. An individual is only allowed to serve a lifetime maximum of 4 AmeriCorps terms. There's also a cap for education awards. You can only earn up to the value of 2 full-time education awards. You can check your previous terms of service and education awards earned in your My AmeriCorps account. If you have questions about the previous terms of service, you can reach out to the AmeriCorps Help Desk. The phone number for the Help Desk is included in the resource sections at the end of this PowerPoint. Another requirement is that you must teach full-time through the last day of school, and it has to be at your placement school until the last day. If you are less than full-time or long-term sub, you are not eligible for AmeriCorps. Note that if you leave service before the end of the school year or take a leave of absence, including for medical reasons, this may affect your AmeriCorps benefit. So you should contact myself if your full-time teaching status changes at any point during the year. You can also let your MCLD know and they can relay the message to me. Another important requirement is that you must earn 1,700 hours of service. While most AmeriCorps programs require their AmeriCorps members to keep timesheets, AmeriCorps has given Teach for America special permission to use a different timekeeping method because they agree with us that the nature of a teacher's work requires at least, and probably more, 1,700 hours per year. Essentially, you earn a set number of hours per calendar of the service term. The amount of hours takes into account the ebb and flow of work, busy season versus vacation, sick time, and other time off. We know you work a lot of hours, probably more than 1,700, but if you serve until the last day of school, you will receive exactly 1,700 hours for AmeriCorps. If you leave before the end of school year, your hours will be calculated based upon our approved timekeeping multiplier. You must complete all required AmeriCorps paperwork and documentation by the established deadlines. Note that many of these deadlines are set by AmeriCorps, not Teach for America, so you have to make sure to complete these actions on time. Onboarding and enrollment paperwork must be completed this summer before your AmeriCorps term starts on September 1st. There is paperwork due at the mid-year mark and the end year as well. There may be additional paperwork or documentation that we specifically ask for you to provide throughout the year, especially if AmeriCorps makes any rule changes or adds requirements. We will be sure to explicitly state these in enough time for you to meet that deadline. We also know that paperwork can be a pain, but is really important so we can prove that you have completed all of the requirements necessary to receive your benefits. To ensure you don't lose or encounter a delay in receiving your benefits, please respond to all paperwork requests promptly. Another AmeriCorps requirement is that you abide by all other policies as set forth in your AmeriCorps Member Service Agreement, including the non-discrimination, non-harassment, and grievance procedures. Promoting AmeriCorps identity is important to raise awareness of the program and Teach for America's partnership with it. You must wear an AmeriCorps lapel pin during AmeriCorps service hours, and remember, anytime you are acting as or representing yourself as a Teach for America Corps member counts as AmeriCorps time. And you must hang an AmeriCorps sign into your classroom, which we will provide at the first day of school. So let's talk more about prohibited activities. So during your AmeriCorps service, you must refrain from engaging in prohibited activities. This list of activities exists to ensure that federal dollars are not misused. Funding from the federal government is highly regulated and cannot be used for particular activities. Federal law prohibits you from conducting any of these activities while serving as a Teach for America Corps member and while on AmeriCorps time. Anytime you are acting or representing yourself as a Teach for America Corps member counts as AmeriCorps time. This includes time teaching, lesson planning, grading, or participating in professional development, whether through TFA, your school, or another partner. We will go through the list of prohibited activities now, but also know that you can always reference this list on the CNCS website as well as your member service agreement. You are able to participate in these activities on your own time. However, keep in mind that since you do not keep timesheets, it is more difficult to differentiate between your TFA and non-TFA time. So you must not represent yourself as a Teach for America Corps member if you engage in any of these activities as a private citizen. Be sure to not identify yourself as a TFA AmeriCorps member, including wearing any gear with the AmeriCorps logo. Ultimately, perception matters. If it could be perceived that you are conducting any of these activities as a Teach for America member, you should refrain from participating. So here's the list of prohibited activities. Please take a moment to read through this slide. While you do not need to memorize these verbatim, you do need to remember the main types of activities that you cannot participate in. You must be mindful of your actions at all times to ensure that you are not violating any of these prohibited activities. Engaging in prohibited activities could result in release from AmeriCorps service and loss of AmeriCorps benefits. Always be mindful of your activities and the possible perception of your participation in anything unallowable.